Hello everyone, I'm Louise Chunn. I'm the founder of Welldoing.org, which is a therapist platform which matches people with therapists all through the UK, in person and online. And Jasminka Letzas is one of our therapists. She's a qualified hypnotherapist, and she also uses cognitive behavioural therapy strategies to help clients change their thinking patterns and behaviours. She sees clients in Islington and is available on the Welldoing platform. Welcome, Jasminka. Good to meet you. This is a great opportunity for me. I'm meeting all of the therapists who are very known on the phone and online, so it's exciting for me too. So tell us a bit about hypnotherapy and why you decided to train as a hypnotherapist.
Yeah, hypnosis is basically a really good tool to intensify and to really rehearse behavior patterns and things that you want to change. So it works very well together with other approaches of therapy. So it's just a tool that you use to reinforce the methods you're using through other therapies. For instance, in cognitive behavioral therapy, you're looking at your thinking patterns and your behavior patterns, and there are certain things that are maybe unhelpful that you're doing. And then you can actually go into hypnosis and you can rehearse different ways of behaving or different ways of thinking. So it really gives that experiential level on top of the just thinking it through, because we are too much in our heads anyway these days. So it adds the experiential level and really doing something as if it is happening now. So we are also revisiting past events that were maybe that you lived through in a state of heightened anxiety, and if you go back over it in hypnosis, it can be really helpful to see what really happened.
And what about the CBT? Could you give us a bit of an understanding of how the theory behind CBT?
Yes, so basically CBT is cognitive behavioral therapy. I think most people sort of have maybe a vague understanding of it. So we are looking at what are the thoughts that are coming up in certain situations, and what are your typical behavior patterns that you're falling into automatically, usually, and on what is helpful in those thinking patterns and in those behavior patterns, and what is unhelpful. And you're then, when you're going over that, and you uncover as well what are the underlying thoughts. For instance, what causes you anxiety? What are the underlying thoughts that are driving these thinking and behavior patterns? Then you can actually dispute those as well and see, well, is that really true or is it not true? And you can go through an exercise of establishing what is more helpful, or what are you really thinking. Sometimes we just have sort of we fall into certain types of, we call them thinking errors. So you're overgeneralizing something, or you're mind reading. You think you know what the other person is thinking about you, but they don't. And when you dispute that, and then you can, with the hypnosis, train some other thinking patterns and other behavior patterns as well.
So are you seeing a lot of people who come about anxiety?
Yes. I would actually say it feels that a lot of people are anxious these days, and I think obviously we are living in times as well where there are a lot of things to be anxious about, which is understandable. But also, of course, the more we are sensitized to the topic, so a lot of people are reading more about it, they are more knowledgeable about it, and they question themselves more, like, oh, you know, what things am I uncertain about, and what things am I worrying about, and are these physical signs of anxiety? So yes, so sometimes people, it can also become a cycle. Mm-hmm.
Do you mean like in the media, there's much more talking about anxiety?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And are you seeing people across the age range, or are there, is it more younger people?
Yes, I mean, I would say, so obviously I can't speak for everyone, but the clients I'm seeing, I would say they are mainly in their 20s to late 40s, so that sort of age range. And with anxiety, there are a lot of people in their 20s and in their mid 30s, so that is a lot. The age range I sort of meet with anxiety problems.
And is it usually around a common, you know, kind of cause, like relationships or work, or
Yeah.
or health or any,
It seems sort of across the topics, but there are common denominators, which is typical things that come up is like fear of failure. So if that might be in relationship situations or in work situations or in general, they look over their life and there's a lot of comparing going on. So there's a lot of am I good enough? Am I leading the life that I should be leading or that I think other people are leading? So yeah, fear of failure is definitely a big topic. Then as well, generally fears about the state of the world, so to speak, the environment, threats that we're going through. Yeah, those are the key topics, and mainly work, relationship, family.
Right, and what can you do for them with their worries about what's happening to the world, for example?
Yes, that is of course. Yes, so of course you cannot always do something directly about the cause, because often we have anxieties that are justified. But how you're dealing with the anxiety and what can help you in certain situations, particularly when you're getting into a heightened state of anxiety. There are certain sort of strategies that you can use, and that is basically what we focus on then. So how you can build up your resilience and how you can deal with situations better.
And what about panic attacks? You see people who suffer panic attacks. Yes. How would you describe what a panic attack is? Yeah, so a panic attack is really a heightened state of anxiety that has pushed that level further, where the physical signs are becoming really strong. So you have, and sometimes it starts with one symptom. So for instance, you've got a really tense chest, but it is almost like a chain reaction. So once you notice that and you focus, you have a really strong focus as well on those physical symptoms, and you feel the muscles tightened around your chest, and then that leads to have even more sort of a very shallow breathing, and you get into this panic breathing mode. And that causes other things. Then when you're through that breathing, you start to get a really dry mouth, and then also your heart starts racing in a panic, and the way the heart distributes the blood mainly to the big skeletal muscles, so that you could run away basically. That leads to other areas of your body being deprived of blood, and that gives you this lightheadedness. And it's basically like a physiological chain reaction, but all in all, it is like a false alarm, because there is no threat, or there is not a real threat in that situation actually, and you're not in danger of any physical harm. So it is important to uncover that and to remind people and go through what happened during previous panic attacks, so that they realize it is like a false alarm. These are physical symptoms that often don't have an immediate cause, and that it is like a wave. It comes, and normally after 30 minutes the actual panic attack is over. Then you might have several if you have an actual panic attack disorder, but it is a relatively short span, and when you know, well, I've gotten through the last one, then that also helps. Yeah, what was the question? And is that, are you getting more people with panic attacks, or would you say in general mostly people come with anxiety?
It is more anxiety, I have to say. Panic attacks, I wouldn't say personally, from people I see in my practice, hasn't increased in the last 4 years or so. It's sort of more stayed the same.
Okay. And do you see more women than men, or is it pretty much the same?
That is pretty much the same, yeah. It always sort of comes, sometimes you have more women, then you think, oh, more women come, but then actually then there's a whole lot of men again, so yeah, no, it's roughly, yeah, 50-50 I would say.
And you had therapy yourself before you trained as a therapist. What would you say you gained from your own experience of therapy?
Yes, particularly, I think you gain a lot of empathy, because you start to look at different perspectives as well, and look at as well your own sort of the way you see yourself in a different way. Like often we got into a rigid self-image, and we have this sort of concept of ourselves, because we tell ourselves stories about ourselves. Oh, I'm like this and that, and we tell others these stories. And when you are in therapy, you actually start to question these same stories that you keep telling yourself and others, and you realize actually there are so many other occasions where I was different, or occasions where other things happened, and we start to break up and loosen that very rigid self-image. And that is very helpful, and it makes you also look at other people in a less rigid way, and sort of have more empathy and see that people might be one day in a certain way, but it doesn't mean that that defines their whole person, you know.
So you think it's good for the way you see yourself and the way you see
others,
the rest
well.
of humanity?
Yes, yes.
Friendship
yes.
groups and,
yeah. Yes, definitely.
And a final question: what would you say is something about therapy, or the main thing about therapy that isn't really well understood by the general public?
I think sometimes people think, but I don't want to too much generalize, but sometimes people think that they go to a therapist and they will be fixed. Sometimes I even heard it from people who say, oh, I don't want to do therapy because I fear somebody will fix me and then I won't be myself anymore. They will sort of almost like brainwash me or make me into maybe a better person, but I'm going to lose some of myself. And I think that's something that we have to dispute, or that is not the case. We just in therapy you will always still stay yourself. You are not losing a part of yourself. You will just realize how you can maybe deal with certain situations better, or how you can understand yourself better. Also that our self is something transient, so we are changing over our lives, and other people as well. So I think we can develop more psychological flexibility, which is important as well. So yes, it's nothing that there's no therapist who will fix you and make you into a robot.
Yeah, good point.